tall, gangly thing?
Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by the professional TFT player for TSM. It's Souless. Souless, thanks so much for being here. How you doing?
Hello, Ganley. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
So before we get started, for anyone who may not be as familiar with who you are, why don't you just go ahead first and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Oh, so I'm a Souless. I'm a player for TSM for the TFT section, and me and Keem were one of the first players ever signed in TFT, and yep, that's basically my truth.
Yeah. And you've been playing since set one, right? And so, I mean, the birth of TFT, all these different names were coming out of the woodwork. You were one of the players that people started to really pay attention to. How did you make your name in TFT?
Oh, so what's interesting is in the first set there wasn't a lot of like complete comps, and I think I was one of the first person to create a comp that is not super obvious and requires specific items. And during this meta where Akali and Ninja was super oppressive, I came up with this Locket Demon Yodosork Aatrox comp where it gives your fun line decent enough HP to have every single unit cast. And it really hard countered the Sin because the Sin can't one shot your backline and front line. And people were like, how do I play this comp? And it was really easy. So I started coming up with super straightforward guide and stuff, and then people just started calling it the Exodia Aatrox comp, and then some people call it Solas comp. So it's just really easy to get my name out.
Yeah, we've seen over the years in TFT that the meta has really changed where, when it first came out, like you're saying, people were playing very obvious comps. I know set
hmm
2, people always pointed out how some sins changed the game because people were learning to be flexible with the comps. I mean, what was it
hmm
like for you, I guess? I mean, why did you choose to make your own builds instead of just kind of following the cookie cutter builds that people were already playing and just mastering them?
Oh, so basically, I try to play like their playstyle where I can just force a comp and then try to win off RNG. But I feel like that's not a consistent way to play, and hitting the units is a lot harder. So for my build, it requires a specific playstyle. You have to get the locket, which was an uncontested item at the time, since crit and tier were a priority for the Sin comp. And your units are also uncontested, and it's also cheap. It is comp you can roll to 0 every turn and maintain a stable board. Unlike the other comp where you have to sack and then lose a lot of health early. So for me, it was a comp so I can climb to rank 1, but we're only getting top 4s and consistent top 4s. LP was also really hard to earn back in the days. So top 4, you can actually lose LP, and so can top 3.
Oh
So
my
my
god.
comp was like a really, really safe way to get LP up. And yeah, I think coming over that comp really helped me get rank 1 and started off my TFT career.
Yeah, and coming off the back of that, you talked about how you and Keen were two of the first players to ever get signed to a team. You're signed to
hmm
TSM. How did that actually happen? And can you also talk a little bit about how that impacted your life as a whole?
Oh, so this is pretty interesting because my brother always told me to stream because I spend all my time playing video games, and he say you should at least try to make something out of all the effort you put into it, right? So I started streaming on a super scuff laptop, and at the time, tracker.gg, right?
Yep.
People still use it, and it was the only TFT leaderboard system, and they had this thing where you can link your Twitch to your account. So when you have the leaderboard, you can just click the Twitch icon next to your name, and then they
Ah.
can actually go straight to your Twitch stream. That's how I got exposure at first. And from there, when I first started my stream the first day, I actually pull out like 100 to 200 viewers, and that helped push me like to the point where people can just go down and see my name right away and they say rank 1. So I think that actually helped me a lot because um so my viewer told me that there was an incoming toast or Scar raid. I was like, I was in disbelief. I was like, yo, bro, you're trolling, and there's no way. And then I actually got a raid from Toast, and later when I went back and checked, and it was like they were done with the stream, and they were looking for someone small to host, and they weren't scrolling to that far. They were just scrolling, and then Scar pointed out that, oh, look, the rank 1 player is streaming. And then I think from there, that where it started my career, because having that much exposure on the first day of streaming, and then I think Reggie was also on the raid, and at the time TSM was putting out a post looking for TFT player, like as content creator or like pro player, and I applied, right? But like there was no way I was getting through with like thousands of applicants, and I think Reggie said like he basically pushed my application right straight to the recruiter, and then it was like a life changing experience.
That's crazy.
And
So
then,
wait, so just so I'm understanding, are you saying that on the first day you streamed is when
hmm
the disguised toast raid came through?
yes,
Holy cow! What a day!
yeah, I was so happy that day, and through the following week, I was just waiting for like the announcement, like, "Yo, where's the contract coming?" I signed a contract, and then I was just waiting for an announcement, and then I talked about it to my parents because at the time I was 18. I was going to college. It was the last summer that I was gonna play any games before I try hard in college. And then I don't know how to tell them because, you know, we already have planned. And then I was like gonna say, just spend the next month trying to stream and then see how it goes. And then I'll tell them afterward.
Okay.
And then when I broke the news to my parents, they were like, first they were like, "There's no way, you have to go to school." And then when the money started rolling in, they were like, "Oh, maybe there's a chance, but like there's no way you can do this in the long run." So still consider it as one of the option. Like even till today, I still consider it was one of the option. And yeah, it basically changed my life a lot. And it's been 2 years since I started streaming. I think it's pretty stable for me for now.
Yeah, I mean,
And
definitely.
yeah,
What a
and
story.
I also thought that I couldn't maintain consistency as like one of the top players because the game could just be like, a fluke. Like me being good one set could be a fluke. Set two, I really struggled to like maintain rank one. I could only hit rank one time in set two, and I spent the rest of it in like low challenger ish.
Mm.
So I started making a bunch of smurfs. So at least I can't get many ranks, right? Like I can't get high rank. I can get many account to challenger, no problem. And people will still prefer, like some people would still prefer like speed climbing, like TF Blade in League.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like a way for me to adapt to not being to offer them like the best gameplay, but I still try to struggle to get better. And then that's why in set three, I think I pop off hard in set three. I won a couple of tournaments, and then I feel like the more time you put into the game, like you always remain a consistent top player, and that's what I felt like. Um, it was super rewarding to put your time in, and now
So,
I can. Hmm?
well,
Okay.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I do want to ask one just quick question. When you're talking about speed running all these different accounts of Challenger, how
hmm
many accounts are we talking? Like, how many different Challenger accounts did you have at once?
Oh, in set one I had like 5 or 6, and set two I think I had 4. Set three I
Jeez.
definitely had 3 because I remember like all the 3 accounts. It was Windtree account, Boca Slayer. Boca Slayer was like my best account, I think. It held the record for like 26 game master and one bot 4 game. So it was like an insane record at the time. Yeah.
That's
And
insane.
yeah, like I felt like I wasn't really confident at the time to climb on one account, so I had multiple accounts. So in case I lose OP, I can still remain on the leaderboard.
So, for the people who have heard your name but maybe haven't watched a lot of your gameplay, how would you describe your play style versus some of the other players on the North American ladder?
Oh, I think my playstyle is super straightforward. So you know the term clear bench, clear mind?
Yes.
I actually came up with that term. It was because when I coach players and I see them holding all these units, I really hate to see them accidentally not put units on in time and then confusing themselves. Like TFT is a complicated game for sure, but there's our simple way to play it too. And I think my playstyle is super simple. I don't try to flex multiple comps unless I'm confident that I can play these multiple comp with these items. And in TFT balancing, it's a rare case where you can see, like in this meta, it's very good. You can hold any 4 cost carries if you want to, because the fun line are pretty similar. Like you can go Bruiser or Bodyguard fun line, and AD carry item is just GA Last Whisper Hurricane. So it's a really good meta to flex. But most of the meta I went through, items are only good for specific comps, like certain items. Like with AP comps, you can only play like 1 or 2 comps at max with these combination, like Shojin, Spellcrit, IE, Vel'Koz, or Heimerdinger, stuff like that. And I feel like new players would understand my kind of playstyle more than older experienced players.
Hmm. Now let's kind of move on a little bit more towards the competitive side of TFT, because you've
Hmm.
competed in a wide variety of events in different
Yep.
formats, the standard free for all, 2v2 teams format, all those different things. So I want to ask, what format do you prefer, and which do you think should actually be the standard competitive format in TFT?
Ooh, for me, I definitely had the most fun in 4v4 tournaments, but
Mm.
I feel like as a competitive format, I think solo or duo would be less chaotic. And I played quite a lot of duo tournaments too, and I think duo would make a fine competitive format. But it's definitely interesting to see solos though, because solo you can actually relate as a player, where duo, not a lot of people play duo mode, so they wouldn't get it. And it's also like kind of confusing. The meta is also different,
Yeah, all
but
3-star
I
4
can see in the
cost, things
long
like
run you can
that.
have like double competitive mode, like duo and solos.
Now talking about 4v4, so have you played? Because I've kind of seen people approach 4v4 as two different ways. One where it's two different teams of four in the same lobby, and then the
Hmm.
other is teams of four all in different lobbies. So each person on the same team is playing in four different lobbies, and then it's just the point totals, between all the players. Which one of those are you talking about when you're saying you have the most fun?
The one with 4 people in the same lobby.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
I remember there was a set four tournament. I want to say
Yeah,
that
I
was
think it was set 4. It was a
yeah,
few
yeah.
legal set.
Yeah, okay. You want to talk a little bit about that tournament, because I think there's a lot of people that may not know too much about what that was.
Oh, so basically, so what I like most about 4v4 is that you can help your teammate out by securing like the last 4 picks. Like if your entire team ends, you can basically secure any items you want, and you can also grief the other people item. But the downside to 4v4 is it's really hard to play reroll comp. It only worked in my spot because Chosen was a mechanic. You can easily hit 3 units right away, and I think it just requires a lot of game knowledge to play 4v4,
Mm.
because there's so many ways you can help your teammate and grief the other players. And like 2v2, you can also have an advantage for being first pick. But you cannot grief like decide who are the griefers, who are the ones trying to go for the win and such.
Yeah, it's interesting to see TFT in a world where you're actually kind of giving people roles like, Solus is our
Hmm.
reroller, Kurum is our griefer, like, whatever, like all this different stuff that you don't normally get to see in solo. So it's definitely an interesting format for sure. And talking more about tournaments, you did compete in the Piltover Cup. It's the only major tournament that Set Six has seen so far. You actually
Hmm.
did quite well. One of your best tournament performances of recent events. You got fifth in the final day, which gave you about a 17th place among all the players there. What
Hmm.
was it like to actually play in a tournament with only 1 week of experience on the set?
Oh, I actually went to the tournament pretty confident, because at the time I was maintaining a pretty decent rank on the ladder. Meanwhile, the other players were, I didn't think they were that strong, because the first day it was pretty easy. It just soju milk, and at the time, soju was a pretty good player, but there was definitely a few who are still inexperienced to the set. So I went to the tournament thinking that the first day was free, and then the second day, my lobby was just, I don't know, like it was rigged. I had Ramblinnn, I had Goobums, I had all the sweats, and then their playstyle just happened to counter my playstyle also. So Soju Milk, I love their playstyle because I'm used to playing with them ever since that one. They always play weak board and greed. That is my favorite playstyle because I'm a win streak player. And then Ramblinnn, Broccoli, Goobums, those are like the hard tank players who will always play strongest board and do 20 damage to you mid game, early game. And I was just that whole tournament, Darkstar Mutant was also very overpowered at the time.
Mm.
And in my first 2 lobbies, it was target dummies for like half the lobby. So I couldn't play the game in the first 2 games already because I didn't hit target dummy, they hit target dummy. And I was already tilted after the second game. So I think my mental was already boom at that point. I could have done a lot better. Like where I could play a top 4 comp instead of greeting for a much harder late game. Because I know they're gonna win the game anyways. I should have just secured my top 4 and move on to the next game. Because I just wanted the first place so I don't have to play tournament for the rest of the set. Because first place just secure you into like the final.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, straight
Qualifier,
into
yeah.
is it into mid set or is it into
Oh, is it
regional
mid set?
finals? I think it's in the. I wish I knew this. I think it's in the
Yeah, I
mid
wish I
set.
knew it. I think it's mid set though.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
it's
sure.
mid set. Pretty sure it's
Mhm.
mid set.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely gives you an advantage on the competitive field.
Mhm.
Makes it so you don't have to compete in a lot of these other tournaments.
Uh-huh. So basically for me, I was only aiming for first place. Else I could have gotten top 4 pretty
Mm.
easily if I played it a lot smarter.
That makes sense. I think that's
Mhm.
that's one of the interesting things about TFT is that your placement in a tournament is not always directly reflecting your skill level. Sometimes it's just
Mhm.
reflecting the way you approached playing in that lobby,
Yes.
right? Like what you're talking about.
Yes.
If first is the only thing that matters, then why bother playing for top 4? You need to win, right?
Mhm.
So you are also competing in another tournament. As of recording, this tournament's tomorrow, depending on when you're watching it. It's probably in the past, but you're competing in the $10,000 Alliecoin Pro Am. For this event, there were actually open bracket qualifiers who seem to be some pretty insane talent. There are different worlds qualifiers from the past. DQA, I know,
Mhm.
Skipeus is in there. How
Yes.
close did you watch the open brackets, and what are your expectations going into the event?
Oh, so actually I didn't watch the open bracket at all, but
Okay.
I know some of the players and yeah, they're definitely really good players who are playing tomorrow. But I'm not worried until I see like someone who going 1-1-1-1-1 because I fought these players in leaderboard in a ladder and I'm actually not worried.
Okay.
But uh we'll see. Like the lobby is gonna be decided tomorrow, right? Lobby's not
Yeah, I
out,
don't
right?
think they've announced the lobbies yet.
Yeah. But it's definitely not one of the strongest roster. But
How do you
they
feel
definitely
about
have
the
some really good
invited
players.
players?
Oh, the invited players? Well, there are some really good invited players, and there are some who are kind of free, like K3 Digits, Press Event, Emily Wang, Rated. But most of them they are really experienced player though, so you can't just root them out.
Sure,
But
definitely.
yeah, um, I think tomorrow I'm pretty confident for the tournament.
Yeah, very nice. Well, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Now, on top of competing, you were also announced to be one of the panelists for Don't Talk If You Don't
Hmm.
Know. If you guys are watching, you don't know what that is. It is the official group of people who are going to be doing the North American Power Rankings. So, 10 different players, commentators, figures in the TFT scene. Souless and I, both of which are panelists on this thing. So, I'm curious to know, Souless, do you have any initial thoughts on this project? Because it's something that's never been seen before in TFT.
Oh, this is actually one of my favorite projects I've ever seen because I love like looking at a ranking and see who I should follow and who to keep track of. And this really helped um expanding your view into like TFT players. Like some names you would have never heard of because you're always watching like the top viewers Twitch stream and then you don't know who's actually good. So having these pro players or like these panelists judging the players would actually help you find what you're looking for when you first introduce into TFT.
Yeah, I mean, you are one of the people that had some names on there that a lot of people didn't
Hmm.
expect. The biggest one they talked about it on the podcast that goes along with this panel, which was Hydra Summoner. So,
Oh,
how much was that? That wasn't a meme pick though, right?
oh,
That
that
was a
was not a meme pick. That guy just happened to be in a lot of my lobbies, and I see him consistently top 4 and maintaining high HP with strong board, or like sometimes even level 9 with 50 gold.
jeez.
And I didn't even know who he is. I'm still trying to figure out who he is. Maybe he's one of the really good player who renamed, or maybe just new talent. But I didn't put players on my board just because of bias. I put them on because Foden asked me like, if these players were to play in a tournament on this current patch, and that was like the first week after the hotfix,
Hmm.
who would you think would do best? And in my solo queue experience, I can judge people I play with in solo queue and people I had experience playing with. And I also check the leaderboard to see like who's popping off on the current patch after the hotfix. And I think I gave them pretty fair judgment on based on like their performance. Because that guy also averaged like 2.7 at the time when I look him up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think yeah, it's an exciting project where a lot of players who, like you're saying, aren't the big streamers are actually
Hmm.
getting some attention because it's the people
Yeah.
who have the time or play with these players to actually dig in a little bit deeper and kind of figure out where is this new talent coming from.
Yeah.
Now, after the first after the first episode, they announced all the different rankings. They showed everyone's ballot. So you were
Hmm.
ranked on the consensus ranking, rank 11, and Ramblinnn was ranked number 1. I want to hear your thoughts on those two different rankings. Do you feel like you should have been a little higher? Do you feel like Ramblinnn should have been a little bit lower? Where do you fall on that?
Oh, I feel like Ramblinnn definitely deserved the #1 spot, especially on his tourney scores, his
Hmm.
ladder ranking. Like he's been probably one of the most consistent players, aside from like Yantam, I think, because I feel like Yantam definitely deserved higher ranking. I put him very high on my list, and as far as like Setsuko, I think he performed really well on ladder, but in tournament, people just never heard of Setsuko, because he's always playing but never make it through. And I think my ranking 11 personally, I felt pretty happy with it, but I definitely think it can be improved. Like as long as I'm higher than Soju, it's fine.
Talking about tournament results and rankings, things like that, you've had quite a windy road, I guess, when it comes to tournament. You've had some really strong performances. You talked about popping off in set 3. You had a good Twitch
Hmm.
Rivals performance. You've had some rough results as well after coming off of set 4. You didn't really find your groove in set 5. Had a couple weak finishes, didn't quite make it into regional. So going into set 6 with a really strong result going into the first event in Piltover Cup. I'm curious to know what is or how much of a priority is it for you to actually make these big tournament runs and actually be a contender for Worlds?
Oh, so basically, in set 5, even though I never made it to the finals, I made it through like all the challenger series because I was consistently top 16 at the time,
Hmm.
like throughout the whole set. And I didn't really like set 5 that much, so I didn't put as much effort as I should. And on the side, I was like doing other things, so it wasn't much of a priority for me in set 5. But in set 6, I really liked the set, and I think it's probably the highest priority I've ever put TFT in. Like
Wow,
I've
really?
been spending a lot of time in set 6. Yeah.
What is it about set 6 that draws you to it?
Oh, like I talked about before, the flexibility that you
Hmm.
can play in this set. AD items can go into any AD comp. AD AP item can go into any AP comp. Almost every AP comp. Like AP use like spell crit, archangel, blue buff, and AD use a similar front line and the exact same carry AD carry item. So I feel like even if you miss the comp you were going for, you can still hit a comp that can stabilize you. And that's
Mm,
probably my favorite part about set 6.
interesting. Okay. How
Hmm.
I'm curious to know kind of if you had to rank them, like how do you think set 6 compares to the other sets? It sounds like you'd put it pretty high.
Oh, I would put it #1 for
Okay,
sure.
okay.
This is the most fun I've ever had playing TFT. And then #2 would be set 1
Mm.
because set 1 I think like just a new experience for like any player going to like a new game. They would enjoy their first ever. set, most likely, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's for me, it's very memorable, and I think a lot of players, like there was a lot of good players in set one, but they didn't know how to play the game at the time, and then I think some of them just gave up, and I was kind of sad about that because I saw how some players play, and they were really good, but I don't know. Maybe TFT didn't really drive them enough because of the prize pool. Because there wasn't much tourney in set one, wasn't much in set two either. Tournaments actually start in set three, right?
Hmm.
Like worlds and stuff. So I feel like if those players come back, TFT competitive scene will be really good,
Are there
really fun to
certain
watch.
players you're talking about in particular? Like, do you have any names off the top of your head?
Oh, there are familiar names like Liquid Hype, Dark Hydra, and there were some names where no one really know, but you just notice them because you're a high ladder player, like Claudius and Krynes at the time. Those are some really good players because they were making plays that no one else would, and you can definitely see like they had the skill set to be a really good TFT player.
All right, so you
Yeah,
have set six, set one after that. Where do the
and
rest
then
fall?
set three would be one of the most fun set because set three is when they introduced Galaxy, and it also introduced like the real half set because set two they tried to
Yep.
introduce half set and set one also, but like those I feel like those are fake half sets. They
Yeah.
weren't that many new stuff. But set three, when they introduced Galaxy, it was like wow, like everyone was complaining, but it was like one of the most fun I've ever had too. Uh, they were four cost Galaxy, which was not balanced at all.
Oh, that was
But
so
like it
crazy.
have like it forced you to adapt into like a certain spot where you wouldn't be. And I like doing those things,
And just pray you
like
don't get
finding ways.
Soraka.
Yeah, like finding ways to solve like new puzzle and stuff like that. It's really fun. And so it's 6-1-3, then
Hmm.
4. I know 4 is not a lot of people's favorite set because chosen mechanic was really bad. But for me, I think set 4 champion design was really fun.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Like
that's fair.
I think Kane and Ornn were really nice mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, Orin, especially, I guess
Yeah.
Bard was like the first iteration of
Hmm.
that, right? Where we saw like
Yes.
a champion come out that was doing something outside of the battlefield, and then
Hmm.
Orin comes in. It's even crazier, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Orin is definitely pretty cool.
And then I like how set 4 rewarded Fast 9 also because of chosen
Mm.
mechanic. You can just go level 9 with strongest board, having no best in slot. Like you can just build any item you want, go level 9, and can still win the game off of a like being rich, playing well early game. And that's why I feel about like some other set that don't reward them as much. That's why I don't like it. Specifically like set 5. Set 5 is also one of the like the best in slot, matter the most. So yeah, I think that's why set 5 is one of my definitely my least favorite out of all
Okay.
the set. Are the champions that do well require best in slot, such as like Blue Buff LeBlanc, Mordekaiser, um, Lucian, kinda Heimerdinger, Vel'Koz, Nocturne. Like it was very hard to contest a comp, especially when you're win streaking and then the the creep just didn't give you enough items or like the wrong items, and now you have to play it like an upgraded board with like shit items, and then just bleeding out until you're fourth place or fifth place or sixth place. Yeah.
So you'd put two above five, though?
I would put 2 above 5 for sure.
Okay. So then the order as it went was 6, 1, 3, 4, 2,
2,
5.
5.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. Well, there you have it. Yeah, that's Solus's order of the best sets. So you know what, Solus, that actually is everything that I have for you.
Oh.
This was a great talk, though. I loved getting to hear your thoughts on everything. Before we get going, was there anything else you wanted to shout out or talk about?
Not specifically, but it was a really fun interview. I liked a lot of these questions.
Well, it was a pleasure having you. So, for
Thank you
everyone
for having
who's been watching the interview, thank you guys so much for getting through this whole thing. For more TFT coverage, content, and guides, make sure you guys subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.